very much. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. It's very nice to be here. And I want to say thanks to the host and just to the world, really. Thank you for making the pursuit of my dreams possible and the pursuit of my own passion something that I've been able to do. It's really, it's been a great joy. And it's really nothing more I like to do is to encourage everybody, who's out there to live your life in pursuit of what it is that you enjoy, in pursuit of the thing that makes you want to get up and jump to work. There's something that's in all of us, I think, that's itching to get out, that's burning to get out. It's that voice that's in our head. It's the one that makes you think you're crazy. It's the one that makes you just want to go. That's what I listened to and I answered to. And out of that came my business and my lifestyle and the thing that I'm going for. And out of that is, all the joy comes. Nothing's fat-free. You got cakes, you got cupcakes, you got all kinds of things that come from it, And like the joy of baking is something that it delivers to me in so many different ways. Yes, I love baking. I love presenting it to someone. I love seeing someone happy with the cake that they get from me. But I'm the psycho, I'm the guy who finds some kind of way to apply what I learned in law school to how to build a better cake recipe, And some of my friends from law school are here, and there's one class I took, Secured Transactions, right across the way at the law school here. And it was all about, in a battle between two debtors over the collateral that someone has who's declared bankruptcy, who has priority in the goods, That's all what it's about, who's got priority. And that resonated with me back then in school. And in the pursuit of developing recipes for the, lemon coconut or whatever it's going to be, I said to myself, what ingredient has priority in the battle that's going on in the mixing bowl? You got butter, you got sugar, you got flour, eggs, cocoa powder, maybe, if it's in there. What happens? What's going on in that bowl? What happens when you put it into the oven, when it's baking, when it's cooling, when you're just trying to assemble the whole thing? For me, baking is all about that science, that chemistry. And I get into that. That's the detail that I'm always after, I'm always interested in. Yes, I wanted to look elegant, I wanted to look pretty and all that kind of stuff, but I made a decision a long time ago that I want to put my time and my resources for, these cakes into the mixing of the batter, into the thought process of figuring out, what's more important? How much flour do I put in there? When do I add the flour? How swiftly do I move through the mixing stage and then pan it into the pan? Do I even use like the little pan spray, or do I leave that off? Is it something that's necessary or unnecessary? Can I skip that step? That's the cycle that's in me that really wants to move forward and create a different recipe all the time. But that's the how, and that's how I think I make everything work at CakeLove. But it's why that a lot of people want to know. Why did I get into this? Why did I take my law degree and just put it on the shelf? Why did I say, hey, let's pursue something where I can make a three-dimensional object and say, like, I made that, if it's a cake? What's the big deal? What's the point of all of that? For me, it was about two things. Trying to make myself happy, but also avoiding a midlife crisis I felt like I could predict. How many times do you kind of say to yourself, do I want to be an expert, with my career in something that's exciting, that kind of builds the whole world and makes for an interesting, happy experience, like making a cake, that it actually adds to basically just this element that I have a natural curiosity for, I always love to spend time in the kitchen. My favorite thing in the world is to be in the kitchen making dinner at 4 o'clock, listening to All Things Considered, It's what I want. That makes me happy. And if I can do that at any point of the day, even if it's 4 o'clock in the morning, I'll find happiness. I looked at the opportunity that I had, to pursue law and be an expert either in healthcare law or any kind of field of law, a litigator or stuff like that. And I said, it's a great, noble field, and it's great work, all respect to lawyers, of course, but it's all in the secondary, If you're a litigator, you're following up on fact patterns that happened usually years ago. And if you're doing transactional work, you're helping create like a contract or some kind of deal, but somebody else's deal. You're not the person that's right there making the item, And I want to be like that guy in Pretty Woman, like I want to make ships. I want to make like the thing. And it's just satisfying for me. It really just kind of make me a happier person. And in pursuing your own passion, does it always work out? Is it perfect? No, not at all. That's really the adventure, I suppose. But like, how much adventure do you really want? I think if you're an entrepreneur, you got to be really ready to roll with the punches. That's what someone said to me one time, and that's very, very true. I mean, life is definitely full of adventure. And my lifestyle has adjusted to what, my business allows for me, and that's fine. It's really good. It's very reassuring because I'm not in this constant pursuit for vacation time because I don't really mind the work that I'm doing, not just from 9 to 5, but, from 6 to 6 or sometimes longer. But I like that part. So anyways, it's preventing this midlife crisis I could predict. But how I got into it, is also, I think, an important thing. And it's about listening to what's inside. And for me, it was listening to this voice that was in my head. And it was coming out, in lots of different ways. A couple months after I started practicing law, I said to myself, hey, this is probably not for me. I was sitting there at work, and I was not really digging the way things were going. And my colleagues weren't into work and weren't working like in a hardcore way that I wanted to work as well. At least it just didn't seem like that for me. So I said, well, let's just start looking around for things that you could do with your own time, just to kind of develop yourself. And one of the things I did was I started baking. A New Year's resolution for myself to just start baking. Let's learn it. You cook for your whole life. I knew how to make all kinds of different things since I was a little kid. Cooked a whole bunch through college, grad school, lots of dinner parties, people coming over, having a good time. But never dessert served, because I just didn't know how to bake, and I didn't know what was about that. So I wanted to become more of a foodie and expand my menu that I could serve out. At the same time, though, here I'm this lawyer and this attorney who's beginning my practice and finding myself like just turning 30 and saying, not happy. One day I was waking up or doing yoga or both, and like this mantra came to me. And it said 3 things all at once. And it said, direct yourself to greatness and answer your calls and answer to yourself. And if you follow those things, and if you say that and make that part of your life, then maybe you'll be able to push yourself into the world that you want to be in, to find yourself living in this life and lifestyle that you've imagined or that you've really, I guess, come to expect. But those 3 things, direct yourself to greatness and answer your calls and answer to yourself. I've tried to make that part of my life. I've tried to make that something that guides how I run my business and how I run my own personal schedule. And, in living that out, I've just kind of found myself growing and able to see a different side of who I am and able to meet lots of different people who remind me of where I came from and what makes me happy. And one of the ways I kind of picture it and think of it is that as I was baking and working on myself this whole year of 1999, I began to feel much more like who I am or who I was before I ever got phone calls. Like when I was like in 4th grade, 5th grade, before I got distracted with all the things that come as you get older, all the different, sports and trying to run around and find girls and girlfriends and just things that took me away from who I was when I was just playing as a little boy with my blocks and my toys and my cars and really happy. And that feeling and sensation of happiness is something that I found coming back to me as I was baking cakes and pies and tarts and working through all kinds of desserts back in 1999. And slowly but surely, people took notice of what I was doing. They saw me being happier as a person. They saw me smiling a little bit more. I was coming to different parties and stuff like that, of course with cakes, to show people, to tempt people, to explain to them that, hey, I'm doing this new thing, and it's just me being me discovering a new side of who I was. Now I know that person was there, but I had no idea at that time. I had no idea. And it opened up so much more to me. It opened up to me the joy of sharing, a baked good. The joy of sharing recipes about how I make things and how I think things can be made better. I've been able to do that through writing and through talking and just at the bakeries too. That's really a nice reward. And that's something that has, it just doesn't get lost on me, I guess, in terms of like how enriching it is. It's a very good way to stay motivated and stay in it. When I was doing all this baking, I didn't know that I would end up with a bakery. When I was baking at home and basically moonlighting as a baker, practicing law during the day, buying ingredients like on my lunch hour, home by 6 o'clock, mixing batter and quickly throwing into the oven, and basically just making all these different recipes to order. I didn't know that I would eventually have a bakery and that I would make something out of it and that it would become what it is today. And I'm very psyched about that. But what I did know is that I felt good about just pushing and taking the next step, pushing on and just kind of finding out who I'll be tomorrow after I make this next delivery and growing one day at a time. It was a very exciting period. And it's really like, how the business got started, one cake at a time. I got very lucky. I got a huge break by walking into this cook supply shop and met a reporter from the Washington Post. And she saw me talking to the people behind the counter about buttercream and all the science stuff about cakes and stuff. And she said, well, what kind of cakes do you make? And I'm like, well, I make, cakes with chocolate, cakes with fruit. And she says, well, if you ever want to bring me samples, then here's my card. And it's Judy Weinrob from the Washington Post. And I said to her immediately, I'm a lawyer and I want to go into making cakes and, here's my story and stuff. And she said, okay, Connie, just, calm down. Don't get too excited. And as soon as I brought in samples to her, they said, hey, they really liked them, and they wanted to follow me in this transition that I had of a leave of absence from my job when I thought that I could begin a retail bakery in like 3 or 4 months. How naive. How naive. It took like 18 months just to get the first bakery open. But, they wanted to follow them, and they put me on the cover of the food section. It was the biggest story I've had ever. And it was my launch into the food world, into the public world, into the media world. And it was one of those things where like this golden opportunity. And I was just thankful that I felt able to take advantage of it, able to utilize the great resources that they made available to me because I felt like I listened to myself, because I felt like I was in the right headspace, that I had this idea to put myself forward, to direct myself to go where I wanted to go, and to listen to my own spirit that was telling me to just go ahead and bake the cakes and just do it one step at a time. You don't know what the future is. You don't exactly know how it's going to work out, But believe me, man, if you keep doing it well and working like you knew who you are and who you were when you were a little kid before you got all caught up in the world, it will work out. And, you know, as far as entrepreneurship goes, I think like it's all about blind faith. And that's, you know, that was my introduction to it. So I encourage everybody, follow your passion. Follow your heart. Listen to who you are. And just go ahead and make yourself happy as you can be. Thank you very much. Thank you.